Hello, welcome or welcome back to Goddess of Gore. My name is Vix and I like to talk about horror, thriller, fantasy and sci-fi books. November has only just started, so it is time for my November TBR, and this month I'm not doing one, I'm not doing two, but I'm doing 3 readathons because how else would I live my life without chaos and panic? Would you like to know what I'm going to read? Let's get on with it. I will be taking part in the Once Upon a Readathon, hosted by Hannah Blackwell and a whole host of co-hosts, and I will be reading for Team Fairy Godmothers, the Skoden Readathon. I was late to this one because I only just heard about it from Heather from Soggy Expat, and I will also be taking part in the evilathon, obviously because I love Kasha. And for all these events I will be attempting to read 16 plus the 2 extra challenges set by Hannah during the Once Upon a Readathon. All of the originators' Readathon announcement videos will be linked below, and I'm going to start with the Evilathon 2022, back for its 3rd, I think, 3rd or 4th, maybe 4. 4? Anyway, this is a month-long readathon hosted by Kasha from Kasha's Book Cemetery, and this has 10 prompts based on 90s horror films this time, and they are: 1. Silence of the Lambs. Read a book about a killer, and for this I have chosen Camp Slaughter by Sergio Gomez, and I have this on ebook. This is a slasher book about a cabin with a reputation of being the site of a brutal slaying years ago, as detailed in the prologue of the book. And now a group of college kids who have heard about the legend decide to stay in the same woods as the notorious cabin, and since no one is even sure if the legend has any credibility, they are not ready for what awaits them. Number 2, Event Horizon. Read a sci-fi horror, and I ummed and ahed about whether to choose The Last Astronaut or Blood Child, so I went with Blood Child by Octavia Butler, set on another planet about a bunch of people who fled Earth from fear of persecution. And this little 31-page novelette I have on ebook follows Gan, a young boy chosen to carry larvae from aliens, and the dilemma he faces about it. Prompt 3. The Blair Witch Project. Read a book about a legend, and I could have doubled up on Camp Slaughter here, but I have chosen to read yet another ebook. Can you tell I'm running out of space on my bookshelves? And for that it is The Root Witch by Deborah Castaneda. Now I have a choice of either the novelette with the subheading An Urban Legend Caught on Tape, or the longer version which is just called The Root Witch. I'm unsure which to read, but they both tell the same sort of tale about a shadowy menace in an aspen forest. Set in 1986 on Halloween night, 2 people, Knox, a forest ranger, and Sandy, a TV producer, are both affected by a disappearance of a man, and the legend of the Root Witch sweeps through the town as Sandy sends out a film crew to investigate and report on what is happening live in the same area as Knox, the ranger, has been assigned to. Number 4, The Sixth Sense. Read a book about ghosts, and I have decided to finally read a Michelle Paver book with Dark Matter. Again, I don't own a physical copy. I do own Wake and Earth, but I'm pretty sure I don't own this one, so I got it from the library. Set in the 1930s in the Arctic, this is about 28-year-old Jack who joins an expedition to the Arctic Circle to an abandoned mining outpost, and perhaps a deadly ghost. But there is a very good boy in this called Isaac. Ringu. Read a cursed book, one that has been on your shelves for a long time, and hurrah, I actually own this one. It has got to be House of Leaves, The Bane of Everyone's Life by Mark Z. Danielewski. This chunky monstrosity seems to be a badge of honour to most readers as to how accomplished they are, so I probably won't finish it. A house of horror of the book to read forwards and backwards, upside down, read it through mirrors, through a telescope, God knows. But I've owned it forever, so it's time to decide if it's worth it or not. What's the book about? Who knows? Only those who have read it know, and as of today, I don't think I actually care. House on a Haunted Hill, the remake. Pick a book that follows a group of friends or strangers, and I picked Blood Cruise by Mats Strandberg. And if you thought being on a certain train to Busan with a bunch of zombies was bad, imagine being on a ship in the middle of the sea with a vampire and 1,200 strangers. The Baltic Charisma is the creaky old ship crossing the water, running from Sweden to Finland, same as it's done a million times, except this night it's going to be a night to remember. Candyman, read a book with bugs or insects on the cover, and I picked up a million books until I chose The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher, a book about Kara, who discovers a portal to an alternate reality in the bunker she has found behind her uncle's house. But these realities are filled with creatures that get stronger the more you fear them, a bit like pigeons. You can't give in to them. Don't believe a word that they tell you. Audition, a book that has been recommended to you. Now, this hasn't been recommended directly, but a lot of the booktubers I follow have read this and loved it. And that's book 1 in the Veronica Speedwell series, A Curious Beginning by Deanna Rayborn. Set in London in 1887, at the beginning of the book we find Veronica burying her aunt, and now having the freedom to explore the world in search of scientific discovery. But during a bundled kidnapping, Veronica finds herself in the midst of a German baron and befriending a certain historian named Stoker. Apparently this is a cosy mystery romance. And speaking of romance, prompt number 9 is I Know What You Did Last Summer. Read a book that is out of your genre. And I do not read straight up romance. I mean, you can't escape some kind of relationships or whatever in most books, but I don't pick up romance. I always think of them as Mills and Boon. And where I work, the ladies of a certain age use them to keep themselves warm at night, swapping them like stolen contraband under the cover of night. But anyway, I have chosen The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. I'm hoping I can get in and out of this ebook without touching anything. You don't want to get romance on you. It lingers like skunk spray. This follows PhD student Olive and Adam Carlson. Adam is the man who she kisses unawares to fake date, and Adam is the sunshine to Olive's grumpy. 2 romance tropes that presumably make this the absolute cat's pyjamas that it was at the end of last year. I hope Kasia is aware of the sacrifices I'm making for this readathon, you know. Anyway, the last prompt is based on Scream, and that is to watch a film that will scare you. And I really don't know what to pick, so if you have some recommendations for this, please let me know in the description box. So that's it, readathon number 1 sorted. My light is going and it's getting dark, so sorry about the light. Skoden Readathon next is another month-long readathon hosted by Kim from the Native Lady Book Warrior, and this is a readathon to celebrate Native American Heritage Month with 9 amazing prompts, and they are: 1. Read a book with queer representation, and I chose Maiden, Mother and Crone, Fantastical Transfems, an anthology edited by Gwen Banaway, who is Anishinaabe and Métis descent and representative of the trans and bisexual community. And the 11 short stories within it are about heroines, sorceresses and warriors, and by a plethora of worldwide authors. 2 is read a book which represents the colours of Omau. That has red, yellow, blue, black and white, and I've chosen White Horse by Erica T. Worth, a book which I got confused with Pale Horse during some recent discussions, I'm embarrassed to say. And oh my god, if this isn't a beautiful cover, I don't know what is. Erica is an urban native of Apache Chickasaw descent, and it's about Carrie, who has to face her dark past when she finds a bracelet haunted by the spirit of her mother. Haunted by visions of her and hunted by an unknown creature, Carrie must search for the truth of what actually happened to her mother in the past. Prompt 3 is Beyond the 48, so pick a book that its author is native to another country, and I am reusing the Gwen Banaway book, Maiden Mother Crone, since she's from Canada. Prompt number 4 is short story versus poetry prompt. To read short stories, books in verse or poetry, and I have chosen another anthology book, Anoka, by Cheyenne and Arapaho author Shane Hawke. This is a short indigenous horror story collection centered around the little town of Anoka in Minnesota, dubbed Halloween capital of the world since 1937, about witches, werewolves, bison and changelings. I'm also going to pop in Mapping the Interior by Stephen Graham Jones, just because I know this is possibly considered one of his best. And Mr. S.G.J. is of Blackfoot heritage and follows 15-year-old who one night sees a shadow of a figure walking through a doorway, a shadow of a figure who died a long time ago, his father, a mysterious death that happened just before the remaining family left their home on the reservation. But when he follows the figure over the next few nights, what he discovers he wishes he hadn't. Prompt number 5 is a challenge to read indigenous authors for 7 days straight. And I cannot commit to this prompt because of the sheer number of books I'm attempting to read through the month. Prompt 6 is read from new indigenous authors, and I am very pleased to say that I have hunted for new authors for the majority of these readathon prompts, so I have not read any of these authors except for Mr. Graham Jones. Prompt number 7 is read a middle grade children's book, and for this I have chosen The Jumbies by Tracy Baptiste, and I'm not sure if this actually fits the readathon, but I couldn't find a spooky children's author with the time I had. But Tracy is of Trinidad birth and moved to New York as a child, so I hope it fits. And in The Jumbies she has created a Caribbean folklore fairy tale. Brave Corinne isn't scared of anything, not even the trickster Jumbies, because they're just tales made up by her parents. But when a pair of yellow eyes follow her to the edge of the forbidden forest, she begins to suspect they may be real after all. Number 8 is the Stephen Graham Jones, Marcy Rendon, David Whedon prompt to read a horror mystery or thriller, and I have picked Empire of the Wild by Cherie Dimaline. Set in the Métis community, this tells the story of Joan, who, while being drawn to a preacher's tent one morning, she is confronted by the Reverend Eugene Wolfe, a man who is undoubtedly her husband Victor, who went missing over a year ago. This is inspired by the Rougarou traditional tale of a werewolf creature that haunts the roads and the woods of the Métis communities. Number 9, read a non-fiction book. I don't know if I will get to this prompt, so I've left it blank for now. And 10 is a bonus prompt, and that is to read a comic or graphic novel, which I also probably won't fit in. Now, that's the second readathon done. On to the Once Upon a Readathon hosted by Hannah Blackwell. This is a team-based readathon with competition in the form of points scored by achieving the steps and prompts, with the story of picking an apple for a prince that holds the elixir for eternal life. So I am on Team Fairy Godmother, obviously the best team, and for each step there is a 350 point based on 3 main prompts, each worth 100 points, with a bonus hard mode worth 50 points. So step 1 is to research the history of the apple tree, and the prompts are 1. Pick a book featuring royalty, 2. A retelling, and 3. Choose a book with the words once upon a time in the title. And the bonus is to have more than one of those words in the book title. So I will be reading The Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan for the first 2 prompts, and possibly coming back to get the final 150 points for the anthology Once Upon a Today by E.L. Miller. So the full 350 points for this step. Daughter of a moon goddess is inspired by the loved legend of Changi, the Chinese moon goddess, in which a young woman's quest to free her mother pits her against the most powerful immortal in the realm. It is an enchanting and romantic fantasy of immortals and magic, of loss and love. And Once Upon a Today is a modern grown-up retelling of Sleeping Beauty, a comatose heiress to a pharmaceutical company, Jack and the Beanstalk, a botanist whose beanstalking experiment goes horribly wrong, and Red Riding Hood, a musician with a werewolf groupie. Listen, I just find the books that fit the prompts, that's all. I'm not here for the quality. Step 2 is to find the map of the apple tree, and the prompts for this is 1. Choose a book with a map. 2. A book that you recently acquired. And 3. A book with red, orange, yellow or brown on the cover. And the bonus has more than one of these colours on the cover. And for this I am reading again. So I will not get the full points because this doesn't have a map. So only 250 points getting for this step. The next step is to gather some companions to help you. And the prompts for this are 1. A book with a romance, 2. A book with a family, 3. A new to you author, and the bonus, a debut author, not that author's first book, which I thought. So the author cannot have more than 1 published book out. And for this I'm going back to The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. So only 300 points for this because I've been assured it features found family, which is applicable to the prompt. But obviously I will await the judgment of Hannah Blackwell. I'll explain that at the end. So now you've done your research, you've found your map, you've formed a merry band, so now you get to go on the quest for the said apple tree. The prompts for this step are 1. Read a book with magic, 2. A book with a historical setting, and 3. A book over 300 pages, and the bonus is over 400 pages, and I have picked Red Sister by Mark Lawrence, so this step is worth 350 points, fingers crossed. This is the first book in the Book of the Ancestors trilogy. This is about children raised to be killers at the convent of Sweet Mercy, and mainly Nonna Gray, who at the age of 9 was saved from the noose after being found guilty of murder, raised for 10 years in the way of the blade and the fist by the assassin nuns. Then the final step of this readathon is to finally climb the tree to pick the apple, and the prompts for this are 1. A book featuring conflict, 2. A poll pick, 3. A book with a morally unlikable character, and a bonus if the main character is the villain. So first of all, the poll pick on Discord was Fairy Tale by Raymond E. Feist, and Before They Are Hanged by Joe Abercrombie hits all the other prompts. So another 4 points for this final step. Fairy Tale is about a family who move into a house thinking they've found the perfect new start, but what they don't know is that the house borders a forest that holds a reputation of being the home of the fairies. Except these aren't your fairies from children's bedtime stories. Oh, no. These definitely aren't for children, and I'm sorry, can we just admire this cover? And then it is book 2 of the First Law trilogy, which tells the tale of many villainous characters. All of the main characters are unlikable, and doesn't every book have conflict? Question. Then, just when you think you can rest assured your TBR is planned, Hannah will be announcing 2 more challenges on the 4th and the 18th of the month. Now, as I said earlier, you have to submit your red books to Hannah to determine the points are collected and rewarded to the teams, and I'm hoping to contribute 1,600 points that I think I'm proposing. This readathon promises to be of epic proportions, with just our team currently at 40 members and 3 co-hosts. Sprints running throughout the month, so I am expecting lots of encouragement from not just my team, but all the teams. So that's it. I will leave you with a quote I found that says it's from the Creole tribe, and that is perfect for the group readathons this month, and that is, one rain does not make a crop. Until next time, bye bye.